Hello, Bobby Torres of Frightbox recording here, critiquing subscriber mixes, episode 1. Okay, so before we get started, let me just say this. If you're interested in achieving better results within your home studio, whether it's tracking, editing, or mixing, or recording, or whatever, be sure to download my polished production checklist for absolutely free. There's a link below in this video's description. Download it, and there's some useful information in there to help point you in the right direction when it comes time to producing music in your studio. There are a lot of steps that home studio owners often overlook or skip, and I don't want that for you. I want you to produce excellent results right now. So again, download the guide for absolutely free. Okay, and our first mix is from Manuel, and he's saying that his mix is just not coming together easily. The more he listens to it, the more annoying it sounds to him. Dude, trust me, I've been there. I know exactly how you feel. So now I also want to say this, before I start critiquing these mixes, we have to remember that all of this is just my opinion, and mixing is an art form and is extremely subjective. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna give you my initial reaction where I honestly feel that your mix can improve, and hopefully it'll help improve the sound of the mix you're working on and your productions as a whole. All right, so let's check out some of Manuel's mix here. Okay, well, right off the bat, I just want to say that I'm highly impressed with how cohesive and tight the production sounds. I can tell you're definitely, if you're the guitar player, you're definitely a tight player, or you're really good at editing, which is extremely important when it comes to the sound of an overall polished metal production. So your editing and playing is on point. And also, I want to say this, I'm impressed with how loud your mix is, or the master is, without it sounding overly squashed or distorted. So excellent job there as well. I dig the guitar tone. I like how the bass is in there. It's not overly loud. It doesn't cut through too much, but it's still there supporting the guitars. I dig the snare. I love the cymbals. My only note and my only initial reaction when I heard it is that there seems to be a buildup around the 2K to maybe 6K range. So what I recommend doing is pulling some of that out either on your kick drum. It sounds like there's a lot happening there on the kick drum, or your guitars. Again, this is just my opinion and my reaction. Someone else might like a lot of information in that range. Just to my ears, I hear a little bit of harshness in that range, but overall, man, the production is killer. It sounds way tighter and way more professional than most tracks that people send me to mix. So excellent job, Manuel. Again, just remember to reduce that range and pick an instrument that you want to be dominant within that range. Okay, and our second mix comes from Rafiq. I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly. R-O-F-I-Q, Rafiq. I hope that's right. So let's take a listen to Mr. Rafiq's mix here. Okay, Rafiq, overall the mix sounds great. I would say this though, I think I remember you mentioning to me something about the clarity of your mix. Right off the bat, the guitars, in my opinion, are just a little too loud against your snare drum. A lot of times when people feel that their mixes are muddy and not clear, it's simply just a level issue and has nothing to do with EQ. Because from what I could hear, your tones, the actual source tones sound pretty good. It's just that the guitars, maybe you're a guitar player, not sure. Depending on the instrument you play, that tends to be the loudest instrument in the mix. It took me years to train myself to keep my guitars at a proper level. I always want the guitars loud. But as you can hear here in your mix, your guitars are very loud against your snare drum, which gives the effect of a slightly muddier mix when in reality the mix isn't muddy. So I would say bring these rhythm guitars down. And the other big thing here, I'm gonna play one little section right before the silent part. Let's check this out. You hear that clippy? I hear a clip sound here. Okay, so that there is a production issue that has nothing to do with mixing, but remember, you're gonna wanna make sure that all of your tracks are properly crossfaded before you go on to mixing or mastering your track. Because to me, this is pretty obvious. Again, I'll play it again. I don't know if that's on your guitar tracks or a floor tom or something. There's something happening there where one of the tracks is not properly crossfaded. Now, it's very common for us to want to jump into the mix and not take care of editing, because I know editing is not fun at all, but believe me, it is very important and will help the mixing process and will help deal with a lot of these weird sounds that might be happening in the background or tightness overall. So again, just remember to keep your guitars at a proper level against your snare drum, meaning they're nice and even, and you'll end up with a much clearer mix without having to even touch any EQ or panning or anything. So Rafiq, thanks again for sending in your mix, and hopefully that will help you produce a much clearer, polished sounding result. Okay, and our final mix here comes from Lucas. Let's check it out. Dude, highly impressed. That is a killer mix in my opinion anyway. Now, for anyone who's watching, I just want to tell you this. Lucas is only 14 years old, and this is the quality of his work already. So Lucas, not only are you going to definitely be a killer producer, you already are one. And I gotta say, the things that stand out to me that are great about this production is its clarity and the overall tightness of the playing and or editing. So I could tell you've taken the time to do all of your tracking properly, you've handled all your editing before you even thought about mixing, which is the way to go if you wanna produce pro results. And you've certainly done that here. Now, Lucas was asking about his snare drum sound, and he wants a snare drum sound that's more similar to the Architect's record. I don't remember the exact record he mentioned, but he wants a snare drum to sound more like that particular record. And I wanna say this is a trap that many of us get caught up in. I've been guilty of this myself. The reference that he sent me, this Architect's record, has a completely different snare sound, or a slightly different snare sound, than the one that you hear in his mix. So Lucas, I gotta tell you, there's nothing you can do to the snare sound in this mix to sound like that Architect's record. And the reason is simple. The Architect's record has a higher pitched snare drum sound that has a lot more information in around like the 500 hertz range. Your snare drum is slightly lower tuned and has a little more ring. And it's not necessarily bad. To me, this sounds just as good. It just sounds different. And the takeaway here is that you cannot use EQ to make your snare drum sound completely different. You can shape it differently. You can make it slightly more low-endy, slightly brighter. You can cut out mid-range, but you can't change the actual tuning. I mean, unless you pitch shift it, but I wouldn't recommend that. Your best bet is to swap out the snare sample for a snare sample that's higher pitched and more similar to the snare sound from that Architect's record. Much like with guitar tone, you can't fake a snare sound. It has to be dialed in right at the source, even if you're using a sample and programmed drums. This is why when I record live drums, I spend a lot of time tuning to make sure I make the kit sound exactly the way I want it before I set up a single microphone. And in your situation, you're gonna wanna swap out the snare sample for a slightly higher pitched, more boxy sounding snare, a good kind of boxy sounding snare, like what you're hearing on that Architect's record. But dude, I gotta say, the overall production sounds sick, so great job. And again, at your age, you're producing amazing results that people my age wish we could produce. So Lucas, excellent job, and I can't wait to hear more of your future productions. So I would just like to thank everyone that sent in their mixes. It's been a pleasure to go through and listen to them. It's always fun to listen to other people's productions, because as a recording engineer, I get so caught up in the work that I'm working on that it's great to hear things from outside of my production circle, so to speak. So let me know, do you guys find this interesting? Do you like hearing me critique and point out certain things in other people's mixes? Leave a comment in the comment section below and let me know your opinion. I'd really love to hear it. If you found this video helpful, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And do not forget to click the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I upload one of the weekly videos on all things metal and rock production. You can both follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Links are in the description below. And again, be sure to download my polished production checklist if you're serious about upping your game within your home studio when it comes to editing, recording, mixing, and mastering. It's a simple, straight to the point checklist that'll help point you in the right direction and help you not overlook key points within the production process. And until next time, happy mixing.